Salam students, welcome to you all for the today's session. Let's start with class 8 political science. We are doing the first part of the chapter today. But before telling you the chapter's name, let me ask you, what did we learn in the previous chapter, that is in chapter number 3? Do you all remember? Yes, we learned the chapter that is why do we need a parliament? Yeah. In that chapter, you learnt about the functions of parliament, right? Let me just revise what were the functions of parliament. Yes, did you all remember it? What were the functions that we have learnt in the previous chapter? Yes, we saw the three main important functions of the parliament. The first one was to select the national government, right? And the second one was to control, guide and inform the government, right? And the third one was law making. So, you know very well parliament is having that important function of that law making. So today we are going to learn the chapter number 4, understanding laws. Let us learn in detail what is the content of this chapter. In this chapter we are going to learn, do laws apply to all? Then the second topic we are going to cover in this, how do new laws come about? Then the third topic, that is unpopular and controversial laws. Let us learn the first topic in detail. Let's begin with it. Yeah, you may be familiar with some laws such as those that specify the age of marriage, right? You all know that law is there for that. The age of a minor cannot marry, correct? The age at which a person can vote, you all know that also. For that also we have the law, right? Similarly, and perhaps even the laws dealing with the buying and selling of property. So for each and everything we have the laws, right? We know that because we have learned in the last chapter also, you all know very well that the parliament is in charge of making laws, correct? Do these laws apply to everyone? Now the question comes to our mind. Do these laws apply to everyone? Yeah. Then how do new laws come into being? How the new laws are coming into being? How we come to know about that then? Then could there be laws that are unpopular or controversial? And even the last question that comes to everybody's minds is, what should we as citizens do under such circumstances? See, that curiosity to know all these questions that is there in everyone's minds as a citizen of India. Now let's go to the first topic. Do laws apply to all? The above is a clear, if I'll say, the Constituent Assembly agreed that there should be no arbitrary exercise of power in independent India. We'll understand the meaning of arbitrary. But before that, the most important was that all persons in independent India are equal before the law. I'm repeating again, it's an independent India are equal before the law, right? Whereas the point is, the law cannot discriminate between persons on the basis of their religion, caste or gender. So it is like the law cannot discriminate between persons on the basis of their religion, caste, colors, gender, even the status, whatever it is, it cannot discriminate on that basis. Then, what does the rule of law mean? What is that rule of law? The rule of law means that all laws apply equally to all citizens of the country and no one can be above the law. Let me repeat my words again. It is the rule of law says that all laws apply equally to all the citizens of the country and no one can be above the law. See, no one includes everyone, whether the person is rich, poor, or even the ministers, even you can say the president of a country also. Same. Everybody, neither a government official nor a wealthy person or even the president of the country, no one is above the law. Any crime or violation of law has a specific punishment as well as a process through which the guilt of the person has to be established. But was it always like this? See, as I told you, neither a government official nor a wealthy person nor even the president of the country is above the law. All are all will get the equal punishment for the same reason. But then was it always like this? No. In ancient India, there were innumerable and often overlapping local laws. Now let's understand. See, different communities enjoy different degrees of autonomy in administering these laws. Now, among their own. So, in some cases, the punishment that two persons received for the same crime varied depending on their caste backgrounds, with lower caste being more harshly penalized. The person, those who were belonging to the lower caste, they were severely punished, they were harshly punished or penalized. This slowly began to change as the system of law began to further evolve during the colonial period. Now, it is often believed that it was the British colonialists who introduced the rule of law in India. Historians have disputed this claim on several grounds, two of which include: first, that colonial law was arbitrary. Now let's understand the meaning of term arbitrary. What is that? The law was arbitrary. See, they used to introduce any law at any time which they deemed correct. But the fact was that the laws were applied to harass or humiliate the Indians. Now I am going to give you one more example also of this arbitrariness. Let's understand that. Second, that the Indian nationalists played a prominent role in the development of the legal sphere in British India. Now, one example, I told you about this, like the colonial law was arbitrary. Now, another example of the arbitrariness that continued to exist as part of British law is the Sedition Act of 1870. Now, children, what is that Sedition Act of 1870? Let's understand that. The Sedition Act of 1870 allowed the government to arrest or detain any person without a fair trial in the court who was seen protesting or criticizing the British authority. So, under this act, people were arrested without being told the reason for their arrest. They were not known also why they had been arrested, and were kept in prisons without a trial. So this was one of the example of arbitrariness. Now let's move to the next example. Another example of British arbitrariness was the Rowlatt Act. I hope you all know very well about the Rowlatt Act, which allowed the British government to imprison people without due trial. Now let me explain you. This image has been given in your textbook also. See, another example of British arbitrariness was the Rowlatt Act, which allowed the British government to imprison people without due trial. Here, Indian nationalists, including Mahatma Gandhi, were vehement in their opposition to the Rowlatt Bills. Despite the large number of protests, the Rowlatt Act came into effect on 10th of March 1919. In Punjab, protests against this act continued quite actively, and on April 10, two leaders of the movement, Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlew, were arrested. To protest these arrests, a public meeting was held on 13th of April at Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar. General Dyer entered the park with his troops. They closed the only exit. Let me say again, they closed the only exit, and without giving any warning, General Dyer ordered his troops to fire. Several hundreds of people died in this gunfire, and many more were wounded, including women and children. This painting here that has been given in your slide here, it shows troops firing on the people during the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So children, from this you can understand the act of arbitrariness. That means, though that is just the act, that law was only to harass or to humiliate the citizens of our country. That was under the colonial rule, right? But by the end of the 19th century, the Indian nationalists they began protesting and criticizing the arbitrary use of authority that they were facing through the Britishers. They also began fighting for greater equality and wanted to change the idea of law from a set of rules that they were forced to obey to law as including ideas of justice. So by the end of the 19th century, the Indian legal profession also began emerging and demanding respect in colonial courts. They began to use law to defend the legal rights of Indians. So Indian judges also began to play a greater role in making decisions there. Therefore, there were several ways in which India played a major role in the evolution of the rule of law during the colonial period. Now, with the adoption of the Constitution, this document served as the foundation on which our representatives began making laws for the country. Every year, see, I'm talking about that Indian Constitution, that you can see the image that has been given here, right? Every year, our representatives pass several new laws as well as they revise the existing one also. See, if you remember, children, very well, in your class 6, you read about the Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005. I hope you all remembered it very well. According to that law, what was there? The sons, daughter, and their mothers can get an equal share of family property. That was declared in that Hindu Succession Act of 2005. Similarly, not only this law, similarly, new laws have been enacted to control pollution and to provide employment to the people. How do people come to think and propose that a new law is necessary? Now we are going to learn about this in the further topics that is included in this chapter. Now, how do new laws come about? Before starting, you all know very well the Parliament has an important role in making laws, right? You all have learnt about the functions of Parliament in your previous chapter, that is in chapter number 3. So you all know very well Parliament has an important role in making laws, correct? There are many ways through which this takes place, and it is often different groups in society that raise the need for a particular law. An important role of Parliament is to be sensitive to the problems that is faced by the people. So let us read the following. Now here I am going to tell you one story to make you understand how the new law, how the Parliament processes towards making a new law and how it is passed. But before coming to that, let me tell you about a small example, because our story will be based on this domestic violence only. The domestic violence refers to the injury or harm or threat of injury or harm caused by an adult male, usually the husband, against his wife. Injury may be caused by physically beating up the woman or by emotionally abusing her. Now, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005 extends the understanding of the term domestic to include all women who live or have lived together in a shared household with a male member who is perpetrating the violence. Now, children, we have the story based on this. How do new laws come about? That is based on the domestic violence. That we are going to learn in the next session. Now, let's have the quick recap what we have learned in the today's session. In today's session, we saw completely the topic, do laws apply to all, right? I told you the laws applies equally to each and every citizen, whether it's a rich, neither a government official nor a wealthy person, even the president of a country, everybody will get the same punishment for the crime that they have done. So it means law applies equally to law, to rich, to poor, to ministers, to wealthy person, or whomsoever it is connected. Then we just started with the second topic, that how do new laws come about. We are going to learn about this, how do new laws come about, in detail with a story in our next session. Till that, go through the slides that we have done in the today's session. So see you in the next session with that. We'll continue with the second topic again more clearly. See you then. By that time, take care and see you in the next session.